Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and after a short hiatus, because how dare you go on vacation and have fun without us? Hey, Zach Flash Celadonia, what's going on, man? You look a little more tan there. Maybe something's a little different with the hair. You may have found a razor. I don't know. Something's different about you today. What's going on, man?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, it's the tan. It's us Italians. You put us out in the sun for no longer than an hour, and we're going to be baked up and caked up. So it's the tan. I get a little more red than I would like because, admittedly, I'm not 100% Italian. I'm more like 75. But once the red starts to fade, it's a nice, cool, like lightly toasted piece of white bread. That's what it looks like. So not just enough, But I'm not like these 100%ers that like totally look like a different person after summertime. I don't have it that good. But it's great to be back by unpopular demand, I would say.
Yeah, that's usually what it is, man. Hey, I'm headed on down to Florida myself here in the coming days, and I made the mistake of I guess two mistakes now. Saying my daughter wrangled me into coaching her soccer team during the early spring, and it just finished like the previous weekend, and I didn't wear a hat. As you know, everyone here knows, you don't know, because even if you see me, I wear a hat. That's to cover my bald head. And so I made the mistake of not wearing a hat, not having sunscreen out there during the soccer game, and I got completely torched. So I know the whole thing, but yeah, that was the two mistakes: not wearing the hat and also coaching the girls' soccer team. Although I kid, they were a blast. They were absolute fun. I think I'm going to do it again in the fall.
I picture you like Will Ferrell and kicking and screaming, you and Ditka on the sidelines, like freaking out with your jumpsuit, the tiger stripes, the whole nine. That was on TV the other day, actually. So it's fun talking about that.
That's not me. You know what? Not to get into a whole like youth sports discussion and having officiated now coached as well. It's my first time coaching, actually. I'd done I'd helped around with some other things before, but if anyone's not been a part of refereeing is very tough. They're having a hard time getting referees out there because just parents are just adults are out of control. And especially you get I started real young. I was only 14 years old when I started refereeing, believe it or not. And it's really tough on the kids because these adults are just, they act like their student, or they're not their student, but their kid. Their kid is going to be the next, just insert big name. Like if it's basketball, Michael Jordan or whatever. And they're going to get scholarships and all these other things. And they just like abuse the hell. And we're talking about these little rec park leagues. They abuse the hell out of these poor kids. And then some of the more senior referees just can't do it anymore. So, I would like to tell everyone to go out and volunteer and help if you love sports. It gets you closer to the sport. Either way, coaching, officiating, whatever you may be able to lend a hand at. These kids need you right now, especially post-pandemic. But then again, I understand where some of the people have walked away from that too. And they're pretty brutal, even in the comments section here, Zach. It's like nobody can enjoy anything. Nobody can enjoy Obi-Wan. They got to complain about that too, man. And I'm like, what is there to complain about? Can we just watch and enjoy it? There are people that actually complain. They're complaining about like Jurassic World and just, show me on the doll where like the $13 movie ticket hurts you. You know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah, no, that's so funny. Exactly. People act so butthurt. And I get it when your anticipation is really high for a movie franchise to drop the latest and greatest that you're excited about. But I said this on Twitter, actually. I'm a simple-minded man. So I saw Jurassic World and I'm watching Obi-Wan. And I guess I could see like if I was a Rotten Tomatoes grader online, like where there were flaws in Jurassic World. But I was thoroughly entertained. I thought there were good scenes, a lot of dinosaurs. Like that's the whole point. And the Obi-Wan show...
That's the whole point.
Yeah, it's the dinosaurs.
I know, man. It's only been like 6 of these movies. Like how it's not like these. The first one, okay, really based on Michael Crichton's book, and it's thicker and there's some source. Come on, you know what I mean? What are you expecting here after so long? So
as long as my favorites live in the movie, I'm happy. And that was the case. No spoilers though, in case anyone wants to see it. And The Obi-Wan show has been great for me, man. It's gotten me back into Star Wars. I love it. Have discovered Star Wars Twitter too, which like I don't want to toot my own horn, but it does pretty well when I tweet about Star Wars things. So who knows? Maybe I'll get more and more into it
Oh,
as
you
time
don't want
goes.
to do it. They're worse than Steelers Twitter. Trust me, it's worse. And
Yeah.
me and the kid are plowing through the Jurassic Park movies right now, so no spoilers just yet. Usually I'm ahead of the game on this, but I had my mom here for about 10 days just visiting, and we watched all kinds of other stuff. I got her on to Stranger Things, so speaking of like everything
Right
just
on.
going all at once, like she's watching Obi-Wan, loves the Mandalorian. Even the old man, he's a big Mandalorian fan now too, so that's just crazy in and of itself. I don't think he's seen anything outside of the 3 original Star Wars movies. Of course, that's where I got it from. And you were a little bit younger than me, but I remember going and seeing episode 1 when that came out and there was a new Star Wars movie. It just wasn't making up stuff with your toys and armies of stormtroopers or Gamorrean guards, the pig guys, you know. So
Yeah.
just for other people, because yes, I am a Star Wars geek. I'm sorry, I put that out there. So somebody's going to get mad now. I'm gonna have to show on the doll in the comment section, but it was coming full circle to just like everything's just like so toxic with every fan base. For the most part, though, pretty receptive. Apologies again about Noah's microphone situation the other day. We still can't figure out what the hell was going on with that bad cable, something or other. But it's okay. We compensate. I've got Zach here today, and you know what? You've got some like flash round, lightning round stuff to cover here. I know you've got your notes. We got other things to talk about. It's down here, you know, on the masthead or whatever we call this thing, the lower third. Somebody's gonna be like, "Well, they don't even know what they're talking about." It's like, come on, man. It's like, you know, I don't have a Pat McAfee budget over here, so it'd be nice if I did. But most Ravens thing ever happening, great, or just recently, right? They always looking for whatever. I don't want to say washed up has been pass rusher, but trying to just get a little more juice out of someone. So they got Jason Pierre-Paul visiting there, and you've got some other stuff to toss this way too.
Yeah, we can call them flashcards. I like that. Do you maybe
Ooh.
work on a graphic for the bottom of the screen?
Ooh,
Quick
ooh.
flashcards for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. You're gonna give me more work. I'm gonna have to put up like something on the screen now.
Hey, your show, man. You got to do the heavy lifting. I'm only here. in
Our
a
show,
supportive
our
role.
show. It's not
Thanks,
just
dude.
my,
That
not
makes
just
my
my.
heart big.
Hey, seriously, it all due respect. I know, like I've been on all of these for a lot of times, but it's like if some of the folks here like run solo. I know Brian hasn't had the time. I know I'm going on vacation. It's like I don't have to be on every one of these. It's like I know I founded like this stuff. I don't like hang my hat on that necessarily. It doesn't exist without the 2%ers that are out there still hanging around right now, as we're like 10 minutes in and still haven't gotten anything football wise. But no, we appreciate everyone out there. And for those of you who don't appreciate it, just like, why do you even waste the time commenting? Just go away.
Yeah, no. Unless you have you want to rank the Star Wars movies in the comments, go ahead because I'm sure that'll be civil. I'm sure. So I want to see that. If you have like a rankings of the Star
It's
Wars
all
movies, go
over.
nuts in the comments.
Yeah, it's all over the place, man. And I'm not even going to touch that today. Maybe later. Maybe at
No,
the end of
that
the show.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up for the 2%ers at the end. But the Ravens, dude, I know. So the Ravens, here's the thing: if you are a established NFL veteran and you've ever had like moderate to good success, there's a chance you're going to end up as a Raven at one point. They love doing this. They always go out and seek out veterans who have put good football on tape and they believe have the Ravens mentality, which is just a cheap knockoff of the Steelers mentality. And they love to bring them in because, truth be told, they have hit on some of these dudes like Eric Weddle, Steve Smith, Dumerville to an extent for a while was a success, Earl Thomas for like 1 year. But a lot of times they also swing and miss. And they brought Jason Pierre-Paul in recently for a workout. Didn't sign him unless I missed that. But I saw that the other night, and circling back to Star Wars, I grabbed that screenshot of Hayden Christensen from episode 2 when he just killed that village, and he comes back and he's like, "I hate them." Like I used that, and then I put a picture of the Ravens because that's how I feel about them. Like they're always there doing this shit, and it's honestly it's jealousy because I'm one of those fans, I've said this before, that gets excited when the Steelers do similar things. Not really of their style all the time, but like when they brought in D'Angelo Williams, that was exciting. Offense, not defense. And they've dipped their water in it occasionally, but hasn't always been like this big, giant name to have success here with us. Like the Ravens have been decent at doing it. So yeah, it's very Ravens to bring in Jason Pierre-Paul. Don't know if they're going to sign him or not, but I actually didn't even know he was available, so that's not that big of a deal to me. But if they do sign him, then we have to sign Sue, or at least bring him in for a workout, just to do tit for tat on the scoreboard there. I don't even care if we sign him, but bring him in just to show the Ravens we're paying attention and we can make moves too.
Well, I was going to say a better maybe Star Wars reference. I got to catch you off here, and we got to it's either Anakin losing his hand, or I know you're a prequels guy because you're younger, or Luke Skywalker getting his hand chopped off. So there you go,
yeah.
right there. So yeah, that's probably a better. See, it all comes full circle, people. We know what we're doing here.
yeah. There's football in between the lines.
I saw Lamar. Sue, come on now. I know you just want to do that just to show. Like you could flex for the Ravens and, Omar Khan. There hasn't been like a solo visit yet under the new regime yet. So that's kind of interesting to bring up too.
And I think, but we don't need to. I would take him, but we don't need him. But I am, like you just mentioned or alluded to there, I am interested to see what Khan's first quote unquote splash move would be, if it's going to be a trade or a signing. So I'm looking forward to that. Whatever it happens to be, I'm sure it'll be a good one. He'll want to make a good first impression.
Deontay Johnson. That's what. Yeah,
or Minka. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Minka's a slam dunk, man. But that don't happen until training camp. Everyone's going to keep talking about it because of like Lamar Jackson looking for a contract and this. I don't even know what was going on his Instagram just the other day.
Well, Lamar reported today, so that's already dead. And I had that written down here on the flashcards. Shout out. And I had this written down, actually, circling back to Minka. I think it's possible. Well, the Steelers are waiting too, it seems, but Minka might be waiting on. So Jordan Poyer of the Bills reported today, and apparently that was newsworthy because he also is looking for a new deal. And Jordan Poyer is kind of in the same tier-ish as Minka. I prefer Minka myself, but they're both really good safeties, same position. So they might be watching each other's situation, trying to like gauge money and who gets what.
Yeah, and Poyer's another Drew Rosenhaus guy. Go figure.
Of course. Yeah. It's funny how he seems to be linked to a lot of these guys. Great agent, he's given the Steelers some headaches, but great agent. And nothing else too crazy really for you. Those were some brief news bulletins. I guess you call them news. My last point was from a couple days ago. Our boy Andrew Filipponi, that's it, I believe.
Yeah.
He had a air quote expert on from the NFL, and he said that he believed strongly that Deontay Johnson's role for the Steelers this year is going to be a replacement for Ray McCloud, and he's going to be primarily a slot player. And I'm not the only one who saw that and tore it apart, so I won't act like I'm the only buddy who knows this. But Deontay Johnson is not a slot receiver. He can play the slot. He can do it all. He's a multi-purpose receiver, and he's your typical X right now on the team, meaning he's the one. And Deontay's short, and he's small, and he's shifty. So when you're that kind of a receiver, small-minded people, they look at that and they think, oh, boom, slot receiver, Wes Welker, 2007 Patriots. That mold of the slot receiver, it still applies to some teams, but it's not a end-all, be-all for that spot. In fact, ever since Larry Fitzgerald in his later days with the Cardinals started doing it, the slot position is used more frequently than not for bigger dudes because they can take the punishment inside, and the mismatch with the linebackers and safeties and lesser corners are better suited on those guys. Because Deontay is one of the best man beaters in the NFL. That's a proven fact. Matt Harmon does great work with receiver work, and Deontay posts a top 5 percentage in which he beats man coverage. Top 5 with the best of them. Devontae Adams, you name it. That's the tier that he's in. Now, it's not a question of can he win in the slot? Of course. If he's going to be man-on-man against linebacker safeties or our team's lesser corner, he'll win. That's not a question. But it would almost be a waste in terms of sense of his talent because he's so good at beating man coverage and beating the best corners, like right there, as you're illustrating. Thank you very much. Yes. Alexander, one of the top paid corners, if not the top paid corners from Green Bay. He is one of the best man beaters in the NFL. You want him utilizing and maximizing that talent on the outside against teams' best cornerbacks. That's what it all comes down to. Because Claypool and George Pickens and Austin and Anthony Miller, whoever, Boykin, use them for these slot positions, especially Claypool and Austin and Pickens, who have been taking slot reps in practice. Use them, because until they're ready to take on teams' number one corners and beat them continuously like Deontay does, why put them out there, and why waste Deontay in the slot? Deontay played 6.8% of the snaps last year in the slot, not even a full 7%, 6.8. And that is dead last for receivers in the NFL that had at least 50 targets. So.
No, but he drops the ball. Just look at the playoff game. He drops the ball. I mean, come on, man. I mean, just the fact that his ability to break tackles is what will get him signed. And
yeah, he's so shifty.
He didn't have nearly as many drops. Dude, I hate to bring it up again. It's like people lock in, like they did on Mason Rudolph, like they did on Bud Dupree, like they have on Devin Bush. They lock in on like one thing with one guy, and then that's it, man. They will not let it go. It's what I call a dog with a bone. And so who else are you paying on the offense? Now, the only thing that throws this off, obviously, is the ridiculous contracts. And now Terry McLaurin is looking for a new deal also, and is going to sit out whatever out now. Yeah, man, Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill, I hate all of you for doing this.
Like, that's another reason people should give Deontay a break, dude, because I think there's this perception of Deontay, for whatever reason, that he's like a selfish dude, and he's there, man. He's there. And Terry McLaurin, maybe I'm wrong on this, but I felt like he was kind of viewed as not as much of a selfish dude, maybe because he's quiet. Deontay doesn't really talk much either, but McLaurin's holding out. And I would actually, Terry McLaurin's the first one of this bunch that we've had, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Tyreek Hill, like you just mentioned. Terry McLaurin's the first one that I think is in the same tier as Deontay to be like, I'm holding out. Because Deontay's really good, and I'm a chronic defender of his, but I don't think he's Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown tier just yet. He's right there, but McLaurin is in his category, and he's holding out. So at least Deontay is here.
No, I totally agree with you, which leads us to the other skill positions today. Finally, maybe. Yes. We've heard enough nonsense about Najee at 244. We know he said he played at 240. Some people are like, oh, well, he gained this. Oh, he's not doing that natural, blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, you have no idea about sports science or anything. But you've got, seriously, you've got actors that are out there. Like, let's say Christian Bale, for example.
That's what I was thinking. Christian Bale, perfect example. Go ahead.
Yeah, or The Rock, or whoever needs to. Now, The Rock, I don't know about him being au natural, but dude's always been a beast. I mean, what can you say? But here's the thing I say about that, too. When you've got at your disposal, now I know Najee hasn't broke the bank necessarily yet, but you've still got multi-million-dollar sports organizations and whatnot, state-of-the-art facilities, unless you're the Bengals without an indoor practice facility. But you've got, for the most part, you've got this like just army of everything around you. The agents make sure that you have nutritionists or you have meals and everything, especially for somebody like Najee, who's like, first round pick. He's going to should be a bona fide star. I get mad at seeing some of the trash talkers out there like, oh, he's Trent Richardson 2.0. No, that ship would have already sailed. Sorry. Trent, my goodness. The last memory I have of Trent Richardson is the Birmingham Iron. Wasn't it Birmingham Iron?
Yeah, the Birmingham Iron.
Speaking of which,
he might have went to Mexico too.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Dude was trying to cut his teeth everywhere. Hey, if you love the game, go ahead. Paxton Lynch was headlining like whatever with this USFL. By the way, Pittsburgh Maulers, don't bother, folks. Not this year. And
dude, don't even. Okay, I took. They're on FanDuel. I didn't know this. They're on FanDuel.
No.
So
you didn't.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
The odds they were too tempting yesterday, man. They were like plus 240. I had like $9 on them, and they lost in like the last second. I was so pissed off, dude. I should know, because at anytime I notice something on FanDuel, I'm like, oh, I didn't know this was here. And then I lose money.
Jeez, man. Well, sometimes, I mean, you're playing with house money, so that's okay. And, we'll encourage everyone to sign up or whatever when one of them signs on for the podcast when the season rolls around here in a few months. So just wait around. Don't jump into the USFL stuff. They're playing the championship game in Canton at the Hall of Fame, too. That should be pretty interesting, too.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but anyways, back to Harris, who I just wrote that, too. What was it? He broke one of Franco Harris's rookie records, I think, total rushing yards and all-purpose yards last season too. So Harris
Yeah.
passed Harris, but he's not really playing up in weight. And for these guys to gain a few pounds here or there with the amount of sports science and everything, and even like mentioning The Rock being maybe on the juice, that dude can afford to pay for whatever the hell he wants, to do whatever he wants. He's not like you or I that might have to punch a clock and do some other things and manage your time or whatever. He literally, like, if he wants to get up at 6 a.m., he can afford to do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. The guy could write his schedule. So that's why he could look like a beast, and the rest of us have issues maybe with that. Because, life catches up. We don't get to be almost 50 years old and looking like Dwayne Johnson. So, but with Najee, it's like so many people are worried that's going to slow him down, this and that. The only thing that really jumped out and alarmed me, and we're talking today about both of last year's first-round picks, Najee Harris being the first-round pick, and how that really sets up this upcoming season, but also some of the other running backs and tight ends. It's usually just a bell cow situation with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we've heard that maybe that might not be the case. Maybe they're trying to ease up on that. We heard that coming out of the mini camps. And that's the only thing that gives me alarm. And I'm alarmed in more than one way with this. It may seem a little bizarre to say it this way, but I like having the bell cow back to a certain degree. I like having your best player on the field at all times if you can afford to do so. Where you can't afford to do so is like, do you want to get him hurt so then he's not available and you end up in like a James Conner type situation? Man, is it really just a catch-22 right now? Because we got to go down the rest of this running back list and take a look at like who else is still available on this roster, and can the Steelers like really roll with Benny Snell as their primary backup running back, or are they going to add to this group? I don't know. We talked about Omar Khan maybe making a move or something. Maybe it's somebody that gets cut out of camp or whatever, but this is probably the thing that alarms me the most is are they in or out on Benny Snell, or is some of Benny Snell football a byproduct of all the other problems the offense has had over the last couple of years?
Yeah, dude, Benny Snell reminds me of like a middle school girlfriend, because I go back and forth all the time between like, she ain't so bad. And then I'm like, I hate her guts, dude. She sucks. Get her off the field. And then like in a different light, I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, I could see where she has her pluses and minuses. And the next day I hear that she's talking shit about me to my friends. And I'm like, you know what? I hate her again. So that's how I view Benny Snell, because I've said some mean things about him on Twitter when he gets tackled for losses, or to not his fault, he gets put in on a clear running situation and the team knows he's going to run and he gets stuffed. But he has had moments. He has a 100-yard game under his belt. That's not easy. And he is a really good special teams player. And he's a long-term veteran at this point on the team. So I'm comfortable with him in the game. I prefer a change of pace back to be the immediate backup for whatever reason. Maybe that's just the Madden fan in me, like the kid in me that thinks it's better. Yeah, McFarland would be who I'm talking about. Somebody who can keep the defense on their toes, because Najee's clearly better than Benny Snell. That's not what I'm saying. But their running style is a little bit similar from a power back standpoint. Najee's a complete back, but the way he runs, like looking for contact and punishing dudes, is very Benny Snell-esque. And that can work if you're wearing a defense down. There's a time and the place for that. But I think if you're going to, hammer Najee, and then you sprinkle in McFarland or whoever, the defense, they're going to be so like gassed and tired from dealing with Najee, they won't be able to keep up with a guy like McFarland if he can develop. So I'm comfortable with Benny Snell, but I would like McFarland to get a lot more opportunities like he was last year. It was very encouraging hearing the reports out of camp last year that they were doing little pony formation, which for people who don't know, it's two halfbacks, tailbacks, running backs, whatever you want to call them, two at the same time. Not Derek Watt, no fullback, but it's McFarland and Najee, and they were like deploying them as weapons to be thrown to or decoys. And I was really excited to see that come to fruition, but we just didn't last year because of injuries McFarland experienced, and then whatever else went on. I don't know if he just wasn't up to speed after that point, or if the injury was nagging or what.
Yeah, I think he got hurt in camp. Sorry,
yeah,
didn't mean to cut you off there, but I think that's where it ended up. And yeah, I don't know about Anthony McFarland. I mean, you think about who else is on the roster. I did the way too early roster prediction in your stead, coming back from your vacation, allowing you to, let some of the redness peel off. That's the worst part, the itching to peel. But like Trey Edmonds. I don't have anybody else making this roster, and that's the reason we're talking like running backs and tight ends today.
Yeah.
Is because they're going to meld together, and that's already because of what you had mentioned. Just to jump ahead, this guy right here, his what do you want to say? His roster spot is not in jeopardy. Derek Watt.
Yeah.
And we'll explain why. We've mentioned it a little bit already, but he'll be there. And I guess you could count him as maybe a fourth running back, but typically they keep like three. There's just too many wide receivers, too many defensive backs, too many linebackers, defensive line. Like on the defense, there's just so many players that are available for this depth chart. I don't know where to go.
Even quarterback, dude. If you think about it, because
that's true.
If Kenny's not ready to be the one or the two, which is your vibe, that means that's a third quarterback they have to carry because Kenny's not going to be cut for practice squad. So if Kenny can't be the one or the two, that's another spot. That's it, because Steelers don't always do three quarterbacks, but they're going to have to.
Mostly, traditionally they have. There's very, very few instances it was injury. Mostly they've carried four before, back in the days of like Jim Miller. Now Cordell was slash his rookie year, but it was still four quarterbacks, which was interesting. But it was like Jim Miller and he who shall not be named, and I believe Mike Tomczak, I think, was the other one that was part of that group. Which, by the way, I put this in the comments section. We can't get away from quarterbacks. It'll never happen. but I'll see your expression to this. The Mitch Trubisky signing. I may have said it, but I'm not sure I did, and I put it on the paper online. My words are there, but I'm going to put it here in audio video format. I feel like Mitch Trubisky's signing is a lot like Charlie Batch. Like Charlie Batch came about a year before Ben Roethlisberger was drafted. And if I could pull up Charlie's stats, this will sound a lot familiar. His starting experience, 4 years in Detroit. He had, about 1,300 attempts. He started 46 games, had about 9,000 yards, 49 touchdowns to 40 interceptions? Yeah, 49 to 40 there. And if you put that up against good old Mitch the Biscuit Trubisky, Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago, 4 years, 50 starts. He had two more starts than good old Charlie Batch did here. And about 1,500 attempts. So he threw for about 10,609 yards. Ooh, that's an interesting number. I think we've probably said that before. But 64 touchdowns, 37 interceptions. He's thrown more tutties than he has interceptions over that span. But similar experience, maybe.
Didn't Charlie make the playoffs too? Didn't Charlie make the playoffs?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. I believe with Barry. And you got me thinking too. Not only with saying that we're rostering them, but it was something that I was already talking about in the YouTube comments somewhere earlier. But I was thinking about it, and I'm like, man, that makes up for a good debate because everybody always tends to think. I mean, we do think that Mitchell Trubisky may be the starter, but I mean, Charlie Batch was brought on as a similar veteran who had been a starter for all those years in Detroit, an NFC North team. Although, let me see, was it NFC North back then? Yeah, probably. Yeah. Still, well, we still had the AFC Central up till a certain point in realignment. So, yeah, but that was Houston Texans, 2004, something, 2002.
2002 was the Texans first year.
Yeah. Okay. So he's definitely, I think. Let me see, where did Charlie start out at? 1998. So yeah, that realignment part probably would have happened just thereafter, but it's just interesting, the parallels. They've always been Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, in that Minnesota. They've always been in that
the cold cities.
Yeah. Yeah, but they have domes though. They're smart.
Yeah.
So Detroit, man, I'll tell you what, I've been in the Pontiac Silverdome too. It was a piece of trash by that point, but pretty cool building. Now I think it's completely leveled now too. But
what was that? The Lions one?
Yes. The Pontiac Silverdome. So they played in Pontiac, not necessarily Detroit proper. Now at Ford Field's downtown. A hell of a building there too. So I was just thinking Minnesota has a dome, and then Green Bay, they're just like, nah, screw it, you bunch of pansies. So we're going to just roll up our sleeves. But not to get too sidetracked from the running back and tight end discussion here, but just something I was wanting to throw at the wall because we had a little bit of potpourri today.
I think it makes sense because if Kenny is the starter next year, which God, I hope so. Minimum,
It
I
should
still
be
think
the
he can start.
expectation, even for me.
Yeah,
That's I, I
yeah,
think you bring him on. And what about the nonsense too? I'll throw this in for you too. All these people are saying he's not up to speed with the playbook or something with mini camp, or he's not taking it. He's not taking like a duck to water. And I'm like, what do you expect from him? This is a team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they're going to make him earn his stripes.
yeah. He's a
Like,
rookie. I,
yeah,
I
he's a
didn't hear that he
rookie.
was
Come
struggling.
on,
I heard that he was sticking around a long time
it's
and getting like kicked out of the
it's
organ the
clickbait.
facility.
It's clickbait. That's why.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if he's a starter next year, which yeah, we all are hoping to hear, well, either Mitch or Mason is hopefully presumably going to be the backup then. So it's not that crazy to think, I mean, Mitch isn't an idiot. Like he can still very much start this year, but he's on for a 2-year deal, and if he can't think that he's probably going to start next year. So either he is in his mind already that he's going to start this year and then be our seasoned veteran Charlie Batch backup for the rest of his career, or he's going to springboard himself out of here and then Mason can be our backup next year. I think it'll be one of them two. If not, that'd be surprising if they went into
Yeah.
next year with not a backup who like was comfortable in the system.
Absolutely. That's exactly where I'm going with the Charlie Batch thing.
Yeah,
So it's like maybe Mitch doesn't even win the job outright
there you go.
either. And
That's it.
I mean he came in, he could have beat Charlie Batch, or Charlie Batch could have beat Tommy Maddox.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily comfortable with Tommy Maddox at any point. And I love the Tommy gun. But if you could get that level of production though, and it would help. It helped that they had Jerome Bettis. So it comes back again to the run game. And you have me thinking with the pro form, the pony, the two running backs. If you're on Tecmo Bowl with the old LA Raiders, Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, both, man. It was like
Okay,
everybody
that's
talks
sick.
about Bo Jackson in the game, and they have the commercials and everything, but Marcus Allen was on that roster too, and Marcus Allen was still getting it done. I think Marcus Allen played into his 30s. He was definitely getting it done later with the Chiefs and Joe Montana. Chiefs have always been interesting. Like they always went after like free agents a lot more than like the Steelers did for the most part. But anyways, I would be thrilled to death if they could spell Najee a little bit. I think the problem mainly with Benny Snell football has been exactly what you said. They put him in too obvious of situations where everybody just stacks the line. You had an offensive line that hadn't been too crazy good, and it hasn't helped him at all. It's, if anything, it's probably hurt him more. The few times he's had opportunities to be in a starring role, he's done well, but he's also gotten banged up too. So you got to use him. Maybe a change of pace guy like McFarland, but I did see them as the three that make the roster. And then you got Derek Watt as the fullback. And that's because when we come back around full circle to all of this, there's a 6th round draft pick that's he's a spitting image of someone else that's already on the roster, except he's got like this flowing hair. It's pretty beautiful. And it's going to throw you off. Everyone's going to start yelling. Are they going to yell Heath at Connor Heyward?
I don't know. That's a good
Connor
question.
Heathward. Like, but yeah, we see him as kind of he's going to be in between. They're going to try and find a role for him. You know what we never talked about with this though? We had mentioned David Johnson and Will Johnson and like H-back. We never brought up Jalen Samuels as part of that same discussion. And
Yeah.
Jalen Samuels was much of the same type of player without the real true defined role in the NFL. He's a tweener type size, and he can play a variety of maybe different roles, including special teams. So that's probably where Connor Heyward is fluctuating as an H-back, a fullback, and or tight end, and that's going to get into our little tight end conversation.
Yeah, yeah, I think very much what you said about Connor Heyward, and I've been saying that. I think he's not going to be a traditional fullback. He's a Swiss Army knife, and Jalen Samuels is a great comparison. I didn't think about him being a more of a tailback than Heyward, but he can do that too. A lot of Michigan State fans have said that on Twitter. From what I've seen, is that he's a good ball carrier, shiftier than you would think, very physical. There's a couple poster shots of him hurdling dudes. And I think he's a very smart player, too, which adds to the Jalen Samuels Swiss Army knife deal. You have to be a smart player and an intelligent player, a very aware one, to know multiple spots at a time and know what guys are doing. Wouldn't be surprised to see a little wildcat, a little wild Connor from Heyward if he, proves himself and can get a consistent role with the offense. But yeah, that's a pick that's grown on me more. I was one of the people who actually liked the pick, and it's grown on me more and more since just hearing how he's doing in practice and looking. And I think he's going to be one of the like 52, 53, 54th guys on the team this year that's really pushing to for a spot. I initially thought practice squad with him, but I can see a world where he makes the team as like a bottom of the roster player. We'll see though. We'll see about that, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Maybe you think they ever give these guys any carries, or maybe they'll incorporate them. And I could totally see the way the Steelers' offense, just by the quarterbacks we described, could be kept in dump offs with even Trubisky, Rudolph, rookie quarterbacks. Obviously, your running backs and tight ends seem to be
Oh yeah, Ebron did a
the
handoff
crutch.
before for us for Matt Canada.
First ever Steelers rushing touchdown by a tight end, by
There
the
you go.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that was that game was an oddity because it was a rushing touchdown by Ebron and then I think a receiving touchdown by Najee, or there was somebody else who had a receiving touchdown. Maybe it was even Benny Snell. And it was
yeah,
just like
just
it's
something really
complete
different.
upside down. It was so upside down. You're like, wait, Ebron ran it in, but it was probably Najee because Najee was a lot of the workhorse. But that's kind of the point, is we're talking running backs and tight ends as the crutch for all of these quarterbacks, and they're going to need it. And that's what the Steelers were looking ahead at, and maybe being able to get another year out of Ben Roethlisberger, and thinking maybe even two. If Ben Roethlisberger still had the goods last year, he'd probably still be around this year.
Yeah.
It's very possible if he wanted to be. If Mother Nature or Father Time doesn't catch up to you, which it does to everybody, unfortunately. But we got some other. Let's talk about like probably one of your favorite players right now, and that's going to be Pat Freiermuth. You think he's got?
Hell
Yeah,
yeah, dude. Oh my God. I'm so excited for him.
I am too. And anybody who thinks that they just don't have him, they don't have the respect on his name. The respect. Like Hayden Hurst gets signed Cincinnati, and it's like everybody's talking about putting him with like Joe Burrow, and I'm just like, I don't care. It's like Freiermuth has an opportunity. Mark Andrews blew up, and he was under the radar last year, and I know throwing up a little bit of purple vomit here, but my fantasy teams were loaded with shares of Mark Andrews because I'm just like, this guy was so undersold. Now this year I won't be able to get away with it. I
Yeah.
did that years ago with Jimmy Graham too. People just didn't realize when Jeremy Shockey, and I think it was Sharon time, and Shockey went out of there, and it was just like, man, this offense is just they're gonna pound it to the tight ends. That's what's going to happen here with Freiermuth. I think Freiermuth is going to blow up the charts here. What was his? I don't have his numbers up right now. I was trying to see what he did. I think it was second in, let's see, receptions. No, third in receptions. Actually, Najee was. So it was 107 for Deontay Johnson, and then 74 catches for Harris, 60 for Freiermuth. But Freiermuth had third in yards, 497, and second in touchdowns with 7 touchdowns. And if the Steelers can sniff the red zone a little bit better than last year, it's hard to imagine an offense that could be worse, regardless of the quarterback play. It really is hard to imagine because there were a lot of 3-and-outs, a lot of missed red zone opportunities. But I think he can improve on that.
Oh, me too, man. Yeah, that Freiermuth, he's the worst kept secret, I think, heading into the fantasy football season. I think I said this on Twitter, but I wish so bad I could steal him because I think he will be a steal like around the world, but not in Pittsburgh or in Steelers Nation or fans because they're going to draft him as high as possible. As soon as it's acceptable to take a tight end, he'll go. But in normal leagues, he would go mid round. And I really think, pardon me, I think he's set up for double-digit touchdowns this year. All you're hearing from camp is it's him and the Najee show. Him and Najee, and then Pickens to an extent for a rookie category. They were lighting up all of these mini camps, OTAs. Freiermuth looks crisp, catching multiple passes for touchdowns. From what I hear from people that practice, I forget who said it, but he said every which way you look, you're going to catch either Freiermuth or even Gentry to an extent, who has developed very well, making some kind of great acrobatic catch for us. And I had been hearing the Freiermuth stuff this whole past month, but to hear Gentry's picking up where he left off of last year is great. It's almost poetic justice that Steelers took a running back and a tight end last year, 1 and 2, and that's what a lot of people will jump to as a quick critique. Like, you never take a running back and a tight end that high, especially 1 and 2. Blah, 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 blah. Even though Najee and Freiermuth both are very responsible for why the Steelers were even semi-relevant last year. They both were needed. So I get it. We could have had Creed Humphrey, but Freiermuth seems like a pretty slam dunk pick if you ask me on that. And the title of the show is how our last year's top 2 picks setting up the Steelers for this season. Well, they set them up in a fashion that they didn't have to add literally anybody at tight end or receiver. We kept the rooms like exactly the same, except for Connor Heyward and then the undrafted running backs, So they set them up beautifully for the future and for this year, in my opinion. And I think Freiermuth is set up for a explosive season because whether it's Mitch or Kenny, I don't know this stat for Mason. I'm not just saying that, but I know you think Mason could start too, but I don't know what his stat is for this. But I saw a chart that Mitch and Kenny throw to the middle of the field a lot. And a lot of their best throws are middle of the field throws. Ben stopped throwing to the middle of the field last year, like a lot, and the year before too.
The whole offense, like they wouldn't they would let Mason throw it a little more, I think. From just my observation, they let him throw it like 50 times in that Lions game.
So I'm sure there were some middle of the field throws there.
They didn't let Duck do it at all, though.
Yeah, Duck. Yeah, it's a hard area to throw in because there's so many bodies in there that you have to have a lot of push on the ball, and it's obvious when you explain it why that was the case. But Mitch and Kenny really like the middle of the field. It's a popular area for them, and that's Freiermuth Central. So I think he's gonna be a vacuum for targets in the middle of the field. And honestly, this might sound stupid to some people, but all the videos and interviews and pictures coming out of Freiermuth, he's having the most fun of anybody on the team, it seems like. They got him mic'd up. He's making jokes. He's confident. And that matters when you're feeling yourself. And it's almost reminiscent of a young Travis Kelce, the way he's carrying himself. And if he can be half of what Kelce is, I'm f***ing set, dude.
Baby Gronk. That's who he is.
Yeah. Good call. Yeah. Silly, goofy.
That was his, the college nickname, right? And
Baby Gronk. Yeah.
Coming out of Penn State. So it was just one of those things where look at the tight end class that came out of this draft. If you need, can you imagine like scratching your ass and needing a tight end this year or needing a running back? Like the running backs didn't go early. Now, if they would have landed somebody like Isaiah Spiller or something like that, but then that means you don't have like George Perkins or maybe Kelvin Austin or DeMarvin Leal. I think the top 4 picks are really going to be something else for the Steelers for the future here, not only last year, but this year.
Exactly, dude. It's all cohesive. It's all, people don't consider that when they trash on a pick. It's like, well, if you take that out, then we got to do this. If you get rid of Freiermuth, then we got to do this. And like, you get it. Yeah. But that's what these small-minded people don't understand. It's all
the Yinzers.
It's the domino effect.
Yeah. Unfortunately, though, just to play in the numbers game, if Connor Heyward's kept, I mean, is that like technically 5 running backs? Do you keep a third tight end or you just keep Connor as an extra tight end? So it kind of makes my guy that I stand for here, but I think Kevin Rader could still end up back on the practice squad. It sucks to always have to keep biting and clawing back and forth.
Yeah.
But there's also a history too with the Steelers, though, 6th round picks, not necessarily sticking to the roster either. So
for sure.
But I think the nepotism here with the family links, they just love their Watts and their Edmondses, and if they could add more, they'd probably have JJ and they'd probably have Tremaine, and they would get everybody that they could here. Maybe there's another.
We'll get the Diggs brothers 10 years from now when they're both cheap.
maybe Kenny Pickett has a brother somewhere too that's coming up through the ranks. Don't know, like the Mannings did or something like that. So, but that's kind of where we're thinking with all of this. It's like, okay, so all these players should help. I took a look. I pulled up. You remember a guy named Trey Burton that played with the Chicago Bears? Yeah, it's the next big thing, right? Coming out of the Philadelphia Eagles, and not necessarily a bad thing, but it, got banged up, got hurt. But the one year that the Bears made the playoffs here, one of Mitchell Trubisky's favorite targets, tight end, 54 receptions, 569 yards, 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, it's right there kind of on target with what we were talking about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With Freiermuth and a 100-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. I love Ben to death. Everything I say is just a joke, and it's meant for fun, and I tease and I kid. I would, if he were here right now, I'd do the old Wayne's World. We're not worthy. I'd say, we're not worthy. We suck.
Oh, yeah. I'd die for Ben, dude. Same here. I crack jokes, and like, it's fun now that he's retired. But yeah, I would die for Ben. But I can acknowledge that, yeah, he was on his last legs the past few years. I appreciate it, though. You made it fun for us. We made the playoffs. But yeah, everything that is said, like in a negative sense about Ben is with a grain of salt and knowing that, yeah, I'm forever in debt to Ben. I mean, look behind me. You know what I mean? Like he's very important to me
Yeah,
and everyone.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I was talking about like, the tight ends. I was actually just looking over the away game, the road game after the bye with the Cleveland Browns. So you remember Pat Freiermuth, 4th and 2, I think. 4th and 2, and makes a circus catch after a bunch of comedy errors there in the end zone, and he had to. This was the game where Chris Boswell got hurt, and
Yeah.
they couldn't kick an extra point. He doesn't make that. It's a 15-10 victory. You know what I mean? It's like it's this sloppy game played on Halloween, no less.
I think that's when Freiermuth, like when it all snapped together. I think that's when his confidence finally broke through. To make a catch like that, a game-winning one, nonetheless, against a division rival, I mean, it was perfect. And I think that is when we all realized, all right, this kid's legit. He looked good before then, but that was a college highlight level play that we had seen from Freiermuth at Penn State.
Yeah, absolutely. There aren't very many footballs that come in his direction. Like you got the little like circle or whatever it's underneath them in Madden. If it's in that circle, that little halo, dude's catching the football no matter what. And Najee Harris also put up some interesting stats catching the football as well this past season. And I want to bring that up too, because if it is Mitch Trubisky that's out there, and unfortunately, Tariq Cohen had just got hurt again, like just by training. He was just
That's
training.
so sad, dude.
I know, but he had 71 receptions for 725 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those were his numbers, and I could see Najee Harris was definitely a dual threat. We were wondering about that, and he put up some numbers as well last season. 74 catches, 467 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was on top of the 1,200 yards that he had and the 7 rushing touchdowns. Getting it done both ways. Just got to get a little bit more, hopefully, than a 3.9 yards per average. But just for the Yinzer's sake that are out there, there's going to be somebody that's going to bring up good old James Conner and some of his numbers from last year. Well, Conner, he made the Pro Bowl and all this other stuff. He got a second contract. I mean, great for him, but a lot of that was with Chase Edmonds, who's no longer there. By the way, I got to bring that up too. I got to see if I could bring up the Tannenbaum and Banner article. That's what we got to finish with because we didn't get we said we were going to have that on deck last week and we didn't convene together. But James Conner last season with the Arizona Cardinals, he had a lot of like short touchdowns. He had 15 touchdowns. That's a monster number. That's Pro Bowl worthy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but this is all that counts is everything after the word but, right? 3.7 yards per attempt. He only had 202 rushes, 307 that Najee had, 752 yards. So he had 37 receptions, 375 yards on the catches and there. But a lot of his work was because Chase Edmonds was there, kind of balancing them out. They were kind of bookends. They were kind of that. I can't say that, Bo Jackson and Marcus Allen, but you get my point. It was like 2 running backs that you had in the stable. Yeah, exactly. Edmonds had only ran 116, but for 592, he had a 5.1 yard per attempt.
Yeah.
Behind the same offensive line, and that's the reason why he got snatched by the Dolphins. He also had 43 catches for 311 yards. No touchdowns there, but he moved the chains 11 times. So just to put things comparatively there, I gotta find this article now because what made me think of this was Chase Edmonds and the Miami Dolphins, and this is gonna crack you up. So we've pretty much covered all the skill positions so far. And we just got to go and me and Brian got to talk about those sexy offensive linemen. That's what we're going to have to get to next. So hopefully get on the horn with Brian.
Give me a shout out during that episode, though. Make sure you mention that Owens from Alabama. That's my boy. That's my pick.
Oh, yeah.
Undrafted.
Yeah, I don't know if he necessarily makes the roster outright, but he's another one of those guys like Fred Johnson a couple years ago or Matt Filer or somebody. He's definitely in that category.
I heard he's getting special treatment. Like after practice, the line coach is like doing stuff with him and meeting with him. I heard that. I saw that on a tweet or something.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually had not heard that, so hopefully you're right.
I think that's what I heard.
Oh, let's see here. Tannenbaum and Banner ranked the Steelers' offensive weapons near the offensive weapons ranking. So what they did here was they didn't include quarterback. This was just based off of running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and they came up with some bogus Pro Football Focus type scale, of which, let's see, they had 7 tiers.
Nice. And
Let's
there's a
see.
lot of tiers. I'm engaged. That's you want me to read? Do it in tiers.
Yeah. So, yeah, I try to do that sometimes. Like the rankings thing. You know what I hate is when you have to click next and it just pops up ads all over everywhere.
Oh my
and
God, I
you're
know.
trying not to
Yeah,
do
they
that.
know.
We
Get
have
that
enough.
money.
There's enough ads just because they're a necessary evil, but I definitely I despise them with all of my fiber of my being. So, anyways, the way they did this was these are teams that have premium talent on all 3 position groups looked at within our weapons discussion. They have at least 2 receivers that could be wide receiver 1. And let's see, with great depth at running back and tight end, some players on this tier are familiar faces in new places, as well as playmaking group to help bring the Bengals to the Super Bowl. So, of course, the Cincinnati Bengals are on here with Joe Mixon, Samjay Perine. Come on, man. That's not really running back depth. That's Betty Snell light, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. That's just Mixon carrying that group.
And Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Do you believe that Higgins or Boyd could be wide receiver 1 in place of Chase? I mean, I'm not going to argue the Bengals' weapons in their ranking. They're top tier 1 or 2. I'm not going to argue that necessarily, but with Hayden Hurst and Drew Sample, like, you know what I mean? It's like that. I feel slighted in some aspect of this, but
I think Higgins and Boyd can get by as 1s, but they thrive as 2s. I think they can get by, but they thrive as 2s.
Yes, the Las Vegas Raiders: Josh Jacobs, Kenyon Drake, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow, Demarcus Robinson. Now you have Darren Waller and then Foster Moreau. I mean, we liked Foster Moreau, but
it's a good group.
It's a decent. You know, Waller puts them over the top. Obviously, getting Adams, but okay, it's like I'm okay with that. But they put the Miami Dolphins here, and there's so many people that are banking on the Dolphins. They do this like every year, kind of like when they do their spending spree, or every other year. I remember this with what's his name, Adam Gase or whatever, the idiot over with Jets and
that's Gase.
Yeah. Chase Edmonds, Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Mike Gesicki, and Durham Smythe. I don't know about the running backs. Just seem like a smattering of guys. Maybe in tandem, they work good. I'm not going to argue Hill and Waddle. Waddle was really coming on last year, but it just seemed like that was such a reach over where we go into tier 2 with the Vikings. Okay, the Vikings had Delvin Cook, Alexander Madison, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, Irv Smith, and Johnny Munt. Man, I could almost creep them into 1. We're not talking.
I would flip them in the Dolphins, honestly. Dolphins, I like Tyreek and I like Waddle, but Gesicki's good, man, but he's one-dimensional. He doesn't block. He can't block at all. Gesicki's a good target, but and the running backs, it's a hodgepodge. It's just a big group of dudes. I think the Dolphins and Vikings I would flip because I'm more supportive of there are skilled players. If you're putting a gun to my head, I know Irv Smith's a little unproven, but yeah, give me Jefferson, Thielen, Cook, and Madison, and was Osborne? That's his name. He was pretty good too.
Yeah, KJ Osborne. Let's go through the rest of these real quick too, because there's some of these I can make an argument for. One, like Denver Broncos have Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Tim Patrick, Albert O. They got rid of Noah Fant via trade, but the Saints, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Michael Thomas, if he could stay healthy, Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave, Taysom Hill and Adam Troutman. Like, I'm sorry, that's pretty loaded. When we're not including quarterback in that equation, they got the Eagles in this next tier. This next tier is just huge. It's like they threw everybody in here. Eagles with Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Jalen Reagor, and Dallas Goedert. They didn't even list 2 tight ends. The Buffalo Bills, this is the one I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I'm out on this one right now. Devin Singletary, no. James Cook, no. Stephon Diggs, yeah. Gabriel Davis, rising star. Jamison Crowder, Dawson Knox, O.J. Howard, always been, The Panthers with Christian McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Terrence Marshall Jr., Tommy Treble, and Ian Thomas. That's not tier 2. That's not
the Panthers suck, dude. And Robbie Anderson might retire. He just said on Twitter.
Well, this was done prior Obviously, this was
Okay,
done
okay,
like
okay.
2 weeks ago is when I saw this. So
Moore's
uh,
good. The receiver Moore is good. I don't want to get flamed in the comments. I'll admit he's good. And McCaffrey's obviously good when he's healthy, but that's real high for two dudes.
yeah, and and not to read these all off, but just so some people uh, get everything in here with some of the moves. But 49ers, Elijah Mitchell and Jeff Wilson Jr., Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, Ross Dwelly. I'm like, that's kind of falling into tier 3 for me now. Like, I know they do well with whatever running backs they throw in there, but there's no defined star. This is what we'll get to why they say the Steelers are where
Because
they
the
are.
point is the whole group. Like, yeah, Kittle and Debo are obviously good, but like Ayuk, he's rising, but then that's really it, like for proven dudes, unless I'm totally spacing on someone. But yeah, so Niners, just because you got Kittle and Debo and then a rising Ayuk, that doesn't make them a loaded offensive skill position group.
Ayuk does not strike me as rising. Yeah, I think he's
Really?
got a regressive. Yeah, I wouldn't touch him with a 40-foot stick at this point. The Buccaneers with Leonard Fournette, Giovanni Bernard, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Russell Gage, Cameron Brate, and Cade Otton. I understand that they don't have Gronk there anymore, but then it's some major disrespect, I think, done. Los Angeles Rams, Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, and then Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee, Kendall Blanton. That group is probably better than the Dolphins also. I mean, just Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson put it over the top. I know Akers, you probably iffy, maybe not star power right now, but I have him like in the Najee Harris maybe category if he stays healthy. I think he's a pretty solid back. Tier 3, we got the Lions, Cowboys. This is interesting though because the Cowboys are in here with Zeke, Tony Pollard. That's a big 1-2 punch. That's one of the better. If anything,
Yeah.
there's people who argue Pollard's better than Zeke anymore. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, our old buddy James Washington, Dalton Schultz, who's holding out for a new deal.
Yeah, I know.
Got franchise tagged, man. I mean, hey, you know what? He got recognized putting some production there. Chargers with Austin Eckler, Isaiah Spiller, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, Gerald Everett, Donald Parham, the old XFL guy that we all liked and stuck around. It's amazing how sometimes we like guys, like let's say like a PJ Walker, and then maybe they don't pan out. But Parham's made a pretty good career for himself post, these other XFLs, AAFs, and everything else floating around. Seahawks, I'm not even going to read these off, but it's Metcalf and Lockett. They got Noah Fant now. The Chiefs, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Ronald Jones. Then they don't have maybe the defined wide receiver with Juju, McCole Hardman, MVS, Sky Moore. We like Sky Moore. Travis Kelce maybe bumps them up. Hard to argue. Again, no quarterback added here. You had Patrick Mahomes to this. That'd be like tier 1, right?
Yeah, of course.
Tier 4 is the Cardinals. That's kind of interesting in and of itself, especially with D-Hop going to be out. The Commanders, going to have trouble remembering to say that. Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Logan Thomas. I don't know. Maybe. As the group, not without the quarterback. The Browns are in here. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Bell, David Njoku, Harrison Bryant. And when I get to the Steelers, this is the reason why I would probably bring the Browns at least down to there. They got the running back talent. Green Bay Packers are in here with Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, just a boatload of other wide receivers, Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis. It's actually not as good on paper as you would probably imagine for Aaron Rodgers' weapons. There's been some criticism there. And now the Steelers, Tier 5 consists of the teams lacking true star talent in multiple position groups. Mostly, these players are effective at their given job, but are lackluster in multiple categories of star power, depth, consistency, health, and distributed talent. These teams have a multitude of young talent that could rise in the ranks, but has not been seen. And I have just said that about half of the teams we just mentioned. But they get ranked a little bit higher. I think it's some disrespect to the Steelers. Could I bump them up maybe one more? Because that tier 2 was just loaded with way too many teams. But you got them in here with the Jets and Jaguars. Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, CJ Uzoma, Tyler Conklin. Get out of town with that. And the Jaguars with James Robinson, Travis Etienne, Marvin Jones, Christian Kirk, Laviska Shenault, Evan Ingram, and Dan Arnold. Versus Najee Harris, Benny Snell, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, and Zach Gentry. They didn't even add the extra wide receiver here. They could have left Gentry off just like they did some of the other ones,
I think Gentry's a better tight end too than most. And like what? So if we would have had like one more like cheap Pro Bowl on the offense, we'd be a tier higher. I just think that's crap because from the eyes of a Steeler fan, sure, admittedly, but I think our receiver group is above average, led by Deontay. Claypool still has talent, obviously, and then two decently highly drafted receivers, plus a veteran battle we have in camp with Boykin, Miller, and White and Oshevsky. And running back, Najee is one of the best in the NFL, young back. I guess they don't respect our backups very much. And yeah, I don't know. I don't agree with that very much at all. I think most people know that Freiermuth and Najee and Deontay as a core of three are good. And then the groups that surround them, specifically the receiver room and the tight end room, are, like I said, above average, I would say, in the NFL right now. I can understand the running back depth criticism as it stands right now, but our tight end and receiver room, I feel like, deserve to be a couple tiers higher than that.
I could even get like the unproven on the tight end of it, but man, the wide receiver room, solid. Like when
Yeah.
you put it up against someone, but look at the disrespect now that's going to be given. Tier 6 was the Colts and Titans, both with Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry, because they don't have because it's like Nyheim Hines and Hassan Haskins like as the primary backups.
The Colts don't have any receivers either. I don't think Pittman's going to be a very good number one. Maybe that's a hot take waiting to come, but
that's so tough. Robert Woods slides in there for the Titans. So I get some of that. Austin Hooper after failing with the Cleveland Browns. Tier 7, this is the disrespect one for sure, though. And this is the final group. You've got the Houston Texans with, Marlon Mack, Rex Burkhead, Brandon Cooks, John Mechie. Yeah, there's a whole lot you don't know. The Atlanta Falcons, maybe Cordarrelle Patterson still out there. You're trotting out as your top running back. I can't even who are these guys for the Falcons? Tyler Algier, Drake London, Olamide Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus has been there a couple of years. I just noticed his name starts with Zach. And London's their first round pick.
Auden Tate and
Tate.
Kyle Pitts. So they dragged him on that. And the Patriots too. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson with Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, and John L. Smith. I would think that, like, if you're talking about depth and star power, that's pretty spread out amongst their running backs and tight ends, maybe to bump them. But they put them in with the Bears, with Montgomery and Herbert, Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, Equimenius St. Brown, Cole Kmet, James O'Shaughnessy. The Giants with Saquon, Matt Breida, Kenny Golladay, Sterling Shepard, Kadarius Toney, Ricky Seals-Jones.
I think the Patriots are a little more solid at their skill positions than we're grown to remember. Like, forget the Randy Moss, Wes Welker Patriots. Brady's always up there. He had a lot of no names playing different positions for him. Again, forget the superstars. This is different times. But with the group of Kendrick Bourne's a lot more solid than he gets credit for. Jacoby Myers is a good player. Devontae Parker's a really good player that they got for almost nothing. So I like the receiver room probably more than most do. They have a lot of low key solid performers. And last time I checked, Tyler Henry and Jonnu Smith was a good tight end room. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I thought that's a good tight end pairing right there.
Yeah, I mean it's coaching too. They like the two tight end. Now I get that Josh McDaniels isn't going to be there anymore, but
yeah,
and they don't know. Like Bill Belichick won't say who the OC is. But here's the one we didn't name. There's one team we didn't name in all this group, and they're in this bottom tier.
The Ravens.
The Ravens with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, James Prochet, Mark Andrews, and Nick Boyle.
Because their offense is Lamar run. Like, all right, Lamar, you see the end zone, get to it. That's their offense.
I get it. I'd probably give them a little more respect. And with the Steelers, it's just kind of surprising that they would put them on the same par with the Jets or Jaguars. I think there's a little too much respect given to the Packers group. The Packers group, I'm sorry, is not better. Like maybe Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon is a 1-2. You can make that argument, but Pat Freiermuth's better than any of the tight ends they got.
Who's your tight end?
Robert Tonyan.
Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, Bob Tonyan. But Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Christian Watson. Yeah, come on.
Well, Watson's a rookie, but the other two.
Yeah, we liked Watson coming out. I mean,
for sure.
I'll be fair, but yeah. So I had to drag that for a little bit because now we're up against it. We filled it in. We had a whole lot of things. I should change the thing at the bottom. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. So, what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Mine personally?
Yeah.
See, that's tough. Okay, because I am a prequels guy because of my age, I imagine, and just because I don't know. I guess I'm not as passionate as other people, but I loved 3, and I know 3 gets dragged, but I loved it
Ooh.
because the whole point and what I was watching for personally and why I'm watching Obi-Wan now was because my favorite part of Star Wars is the whole fascination behind watching Anakin go from good to evil and watching his struggles. And in episode 2, when they give us that little taste of the Darth Vader song, I remember that in the theater. I was like 10 or 11. I was so psyched hearing the Darth Vader music. And then in episode 3, he makes the full turn and you get to just see it all play out and what we've all been waiting for. It sounds morbid and sad, but the whole point of the prequels was to show us how Anakin became Darth Vader, and we got to see that. And again, I saw it as a kid and a teenager, so I wasn't sitting there like, oh, this isn't like episode 5 or continuous with how, So if I had to pick, I would say 3. But I like the original 3 movies as well, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 and 1. I understand their critiques behind them, but I'm still entertained by them. So I'll say
Yeah.
3 because of all those things.
You know what's funny about all of that too is you're saying episode 3 gets dragged, and a lot of people say it's their favorite now. I see more people saying that, but when those movies came out, my only real criticism of them, episode 1 had more practical effects, still had the old
Yeah.
Yoda puppet with the ear that bounced and everything. And by the way, before Marvel
Jar
made it
Jar.
cool, well, everyone hated Jar Jar. I liked him. And Jar Jar to me is like Mason Rudolph. It's a very much acquired taste. It's like
I
you
didn't mind
love
Jar
to
Jar.
hate
I was a
him.
little kid, I thought he
I
was
know. I
funny.
had a stuffed Jar Jar sitting around somewhere, but people dragged. My favorite's probably Return of the Jedi. That's what I grew up with as well. I remember it being like the Saturday or Sunday night NBC movie, whatever, and having it taped off a TV with from VHS. And you got to fast forward through the old McDonald's commercials that really haven't changed a whole lot over the years. It's pretty much almost. I wish I could pull some of those back out. I'm sure my mom has a VCR somewhere, and if we still had those tapes, it'd be worth it just to see some of the ads that are on there. But yeah, it was the CG that was used in the latter 2 prequels, and prequels were like not a thing. And I was about to tell you before Marvel made it cool. End credits. If you never played episode 1 all the way to the very end, The Phantom Menace, it's got the Darth Vader just does that like for like a half second. We all sat in the theater to get
Oh,
that like second
cool.
of the breathing. Yeah, and that was before anything. When did that come out? 99, 2000. I was like still in a high school.
I
So
think
really aging
2001
myself.
maybe sounds right. 2000 or
Yeah.
2001.
So I remember we were, it was before you had midnight showings or Thursday movies and everything like that. Like those prequel movies really did set the bar in a lot of things. And then you get prequels of other stuff now, like Better Call Saul with Breaking Bad and things like that. Like
Harry
everything always
Potter.
had to be, yeah, everything had to be like an actual defined sequel, and it got changed. And the thing that was tough about those first 3 movies, and everybody knew how it was like going to end. They didn't know the path that was going to get there, and it was different in a lot of different ways. And some people were like, oh, it ruined my childhood. But these same people were complaining about the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. And they hated the cute teddy bears. And that was like my thing. I've got one around here somewhere sitting here, the stuffed Ewok too. I think it was like, might have been like a Burger King thing or something like that. I got the Burger King glasses. So I think it
They
was like,
gave some of those.
yeah. And Burger King had Elf too. Did you ever grow up with Elf? Elf might have been just before your time. ALF.
Wait, Will Ferrell?
No, Elf, ALF.
Oh, no. That
Oh
was
man,
before
he
my
was just
time.
the
Yeah.
alien. That was like another thing that they had, and I was just thinking about all the freebies you get with the food. But I will table most of the Star Wars comments. Somebody on here is going to be like, well, "What about Rogue One?" Absolutely loved Rogue One when it came out. It was like many Bothans died to give us this information, and you had to get the Death Star plans. But the movie, like, you don't want to go on Star Wars Twitter and read some of the critiques because it'll chop up and ruin that movie for you also.
Yeah.
And I thought the Solo, I like everything. It's like, I have a hard time. I watch to enjoy unless something's really bad, really, really bad. I mean, even The Last Jedi, I didn't drag on that too much. I thought the last 3 could have been a little stronger, but everyone's lying to themselves when episode 7 came out, The Force Awakens, that they didn't absolutely love that movie. They were like, oh, like all over themselves. It's like that Vince McMahon meme where he's sitting in a chair and just completely like
Randy
orgasmic.
Marsh, South Park, that classic.
Yes, blowing up all over the his computer screens there. So, well, Zach, now that we maybe split the audience here with our taste of Star Wars stuff, for everybody shut it off. Thank you 2 and 3 percenters. The numbers are humbling out there. Continue watching. We got so much stuff here a little bit more evergreen content in this summer too, because the opinions don't change a whole lot. It's not like covering one of the games and then all of a sudden it's done and over and you discard the show. So take a look at it. We'll try and get you all some more content here going forward, but I'm going to be catching some Rays this weekend. So I might not be around. Sorry, not sorry.
That's all right, dude. You deserve it. Work hard, play hard. That's what they say. Wiz Khalifa, Pittsburgh legend, if you didn't know.
Yes, he is. Except for the black and yellow thing, I could do without.
I love black and yellow, dude. That's the
I
anthem
love it, but
here.
It's black and gold.
Right.
Now it's incorrect. But hey, man, thanks for taking some time out of your schedule, and we'll catch back up when I get back.
Of course, man. You're welcome. Yeah, no problem. Distance makes the heart grow stronger. So the people and myself will have to wait for you to return, but we'll be right back at it.
I love the people. I love the people, and I love saying the people. It reminds me of The Rock, the people's champion. Maybe you could be the people's champion now.
Smell what I'm cooking, baby.
Yeah, smell what he's cooking. Know your role. That's what I'll say to the people in the comments. Oh, these guys are just rambling. It is June.
Yeah,
there's football in shorts.
Please comment though. Tell us what you think.
We're looking. No, for the most part, I kid and I have fun. We love the comments. Most of them have actually been surprisingly not as combative as I thought. There's a lot of people who share the same. So it's basically been it's the clickbait, and it's all the people who are outside of that and just ignoring it. So tip of the cap to all of yous out there. My name's Joe. His name's Zach, or as we call him, Flash. Until next time, each and every time. Well, before we do that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate. Send it to your friends. Share the show. Okay, and then until next time, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.